All right, it is time to come back to our collage from yesterday. Um, Full disclosure, this was so saturated after the work I did in the previous video. It took about 24 hours to fully dry. This is the first time I've really done a complete piece with the full transparency method and the water and everything, and this isn't exactly the hardiest substrate. Honestly, it was part of the reason we were doing the collage in the first place. So something to keep in mind if you do a little bit of it yourself. It's always interesting to me when I walk away from a piece and come back the next day. Most of the time, I will come back to a piece and like it more when I see it with fresh eyes. But for whatever reason, that's not the case here today. And I think it's partly because the last time I looked at it, it was wet and glistening, and I'd really just been like rolling through. And now I'm looking at it and I feel like it's got too much going on. And it's interesting because that was part of what I was trying to avoid, right? I put away the collage papers that we haven't used yet and just decided I didn't want to introduce any new papers. I'd already tried to limit the colors that I was introducing. But at this point, I'm not loving the green. And I think I've gone almost too small with my papers in terms of putting this background together. I've been so most of the collaging I've been doing lately has been creating a background where I'm not really thinking about what the piece might become. And in most cases, I am intending to go back through and push that collage back with gesso or white paint or other things to unify it. And so I tend to use a lot of small pieces to add more texture and interest. And that's exactly what I did here. I started creating a background, even though I knew I wanted to think about it as a collage piece rather than as a background. You know, when I collage, let me grab one of my collage journals here. This is Ranger Dilutions journal. It's got really heavy cardstock. It's great for collages. Those are not collage pieces. Those are studies I did. This was a tiny strip collage I did, but you can see even just like these smaller ones, it's a few intentional pieces. Same thing here. And they're fairly cohesive, right? Like this is the same size we're looking at doing with this journal page, but I've used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 pieces of paper, and these two are technically the same piece of paper. They're just, I ripped them apart but put them right next to each other. Like 8 pieces of paper in this entire collage. And here I am with this one, just really, really going to town with a bunch of different colors and stuff. So at this point, I am trying to figure out where I want to take this. And I have a couple of options. One is I can do exactly what I normally do with collages when they are this small, and I can start to bring in other media, push things back, and just keep working the piece. And that's what I'm leaning toward. Makes me sad. There's definitely pieces here I don't want to cover up, so I think I'll probably just be super intentional about focusing most of the additional media in very specific places. I love these too much to say goodbye to them. I love these pieces here, the ones that are all nice and lacy and textural. And so that's kind of where I'm leaning. We have this whole back side. This is the whole reason that I started to try to preserve the journal page as is instead of using it as collage fodder itself was because I both really liked the sort of day collage effect I already had on this page and this little diagram down here. And then when I turned it over, I really loved the imagery here. And so here, I wonder if it's an opportunity to revisit and redo with larger pieces. You know, we're going to see some of that imagery peek through. It's not going to be overt, but it should be enough. And so that's where I think I am headed. So now I have to decide which one I want to do today. Do I want to keep collaging or do I want to keep working this piece? And I think I want to keep collaging. So anyway, what I mentioned about the how long it took this page to dry, so glad I had the styly paper under it because I definitely didn't have to worry about water and glue seeping through to any other surface and getting stuck or anything like that. So very good. So this is definitely one of the papers I want to use. It's I think the favorite one I've been working with, and it's that lovely azo gold. There's actual like metallic gold running through it that's adding luminosity, and then I've got these little bits of teal and blue that must have been grunge on the plate when I put it down, and it's just super, super, super love it. What else? Everything from this piece was really working for me on that other little collage. And this is why the journal I just had out with my collages, you might have noticed, had often one page with very small mini collages and then one page with a larger one. And it can be really fun to have a spread like that where one page is essentially small collage studies where you're playing with the papers and just seeing how they interact with each other in a very limited way. And then once you've done that and you kind of know what you're really liking or not liking from that, you can pull that into a larger piece a bit easier. And so I'm kind of letting myself think of this as that collage study and looking to see what parts of this really speak to me and what parts don't. And so we have these two papers so far. There's also this little bit of gold here that I was really enjoying and will probably pull through. I'm gonna leave the green behind, but I do like this more opaque light green. So I'm gonna take this green and pull it out. And I may have accidentally put away the gold papers. Let me check. Yep, that's exactly what happened. I had put a couple of things back in my big bin of collage paper. So I pulled the original gold piece we were working with back out. And then I had previously pulled this one and not used it, but if I'm going with a much more limited palette of these golds, I actually think this might be a good one to pull back in. I still can't tell. I don't think that is that green. I don't know what happened to that green one. Maybe it was just a small piece, or I don't know. It seems like it has gotten lost somewhere. I pulled a couple more of these little teeny tiny ones back out in case they make sense to use. I pulled this turquoise one back out. This is the one of the papers that I originally pulled and thought I was going to use, and then by the time I considered it again, we had so much going on here that I didn't want to add to it. But now that I've pulled all that green back, I think it actually ties really nicely with the teal that's in this orangey azo gold paper that I've got, and ties in enough with the blue from this other piece that I think it makes sense. And then if we want to, we've got these for accents, probably this one more than the other, but I'm not sure they make sense. So I'm going to set them aside and I'll just come back to them if I feel like we're missing something, and see if that is the thing we are missing. I don't think I'm going to use these papers. With the direction we're going as we limit things further, I don't really see a place for them. So let's set all of those aside. I'm going to keep these minis because I think they may be more likely to work than those other patterned pieces. And now it's time to play. And I think I'm going to actually start with this teal as a sort of a foundational color. So let's cut off some of this extra on the edge. There we go. Whew. This is the thing about art in general, right? Especially if you're like me and you do a lot of just more intuitive work, or a lot of art journaling where you focus on the process and the play more than on trying to hit a specific outcome. Again, not that there's anything wrong with that. I definitely do a fair amount of representational work. I've got over on my desk 2 different watercolor blocks with representational work on them right now. One is a watercolor mixed media hare, like a rabbit, a hare, that I started painting, and I'm kind of waiting to decide where I want to go next with it after I laid down that initial layer. And the other is a really colorful spider. So definitely do things that are representational, but again, a lot of times I will usually focus on trying to sketch out a bit of the design. Detail level, it sort of depends on what mood I'm in, and maybe pick a color palette or a couple colors to start with, and then I often will just still see where it takes me. And usually if I try to get any more prescriptive than that, I'm like, I went through a period where I was painting a lot of seahorses, and in most of them, I was very, very, very specific about the colors I wanted to use and the techniques and the finishes and how I wanted it to turn out. And in almost all of those cases, those are the seahorses I like least. That's just, there's something about the way that I make art, where if I don't leave space to surprise myself, I'm not gonna wander into a piece I really love. And I almost started to rip a teeny tiny piece of this off, and then remembered that that's not the approach we're taking here. So I think I want to get some of this teal in foundationally, and then layer those more golden colors on top. So that is exactly what I'm doing. Now I do have some holes, some punched holes in the top of the paper from where it goes in the journal itself. I'm going to cover those over. I can easily punch them again, so there's no reason not to, and it's a lot easier than trying to work around them. So kind of thinking I want a third piece maybe here to sort of balance it out a little bit. And oftentimes when I'm working with papers like this, I like anything where I've started with an edge to end up on an edge. I don't like a lot of harsh straight line. And if I only have an edge piece, but I don't want it to look like it, I'll usually rip little bits off to give it a more organic shape. So since I want this one to go in the middle of the page, I am pulling it from the middle. I still have kind of a harsh line here. There we go. I'm pulling it from the middle of the paper. So let's just kind of play around. Usually I'm just a slap it down and go kind of a person. So this is already, I don't like that shape there is what's happening. Yeah, this is more fiddly than I usually am when I collage. I tend to be very quick, decisive, and just go for it. Ooh, that's better. That's more of what I was looking for. Just kind of decide how I want them. I like that. Okay. So I'm going to put these initial turquoise pieces down. And sometimes if I've really gotten precious about where I'm placing something, I'll take a picture so that if I feel like, you know, between the time it takes to prep the surface with medium and whatnot, and get the papers back down, I can always refer to that, make sure I'm not forgetting something. I almost never look at the pictures if I'm honest, but I think it's comforting that they're there, that I can, more than anything else. So I am, once again, just like the other day, I am using gloss medium. And I am going to put paper down, wet it. When I saw Jackie Bernardi using this technique to get a lot of transparency in her paper, I think she usually sprays the paper before she lays it down, but it just, I don't have a huge work surface. My work surface is almost, it's not much bigger than what you can see on the camera here. A lot of vertical stuff above and below. And I just find it really hard to work with wet tissue paper, so I prefer to lay it down where it's going to go, but not start actively applying it. Spray it so it's wet, and then go back over it with another coat of the medium. And using that gloss medium is just going to give me the most transparency. Normally I do most of my collaging with matte medium, and keep the surface matte. But when I'm working with the transparent papers, if I really am looking for a high degree of transparency, I will use the gloss medium. You can always go back over it when you're done, and seal it with something matte. So it's not like you're stuck with that glossy finish. I tend to use matte medium the most in my work in lots of ways and for lots of reasons. So that's always what I have on hand, but I picked up more gloss medium recently for exactly this purpose. Oh, okay. This piece of tissue paper is being a little, there we go. It's finally staying put. Ugh. Working with tissue is so fiddly. But gosh, I love it. And I really love when it wrinkles up just a little, because I love those textures. And one of the nice things about working with a piece like this, it's almost completely solid one color. But since I made it on the gel plate, there's actually still a ton of wonderful texture because I picked it up with that, like either tissue or medical exam paper. There's wrinkles from where it printed on the gel plate. There's lacing from where I rolled it. And so it's still like much more dimensional and interesting than if I just laid, like brayered the color over a piece of tissue and let it dry. And so it's actually, yeah, the camera's picking that up okay. You can see pretty well, even though that color is dark. it's so transparent a color, that turquoise, phthalo turquoise by Golden, that it's still really good at making it nice and transparent. So I think my two primary pieces that I want to work with are the turquoise and this Azo Gold. So I'm going to start cutting away the edges on this one, and laying some pieces down there. We're definitely going to have more than the 8 that were in that big collage in my book, since I still went a little bit small with the turquoise. But, you know, it is what it is. I actually may just do like one really large piece of this as a starting point and see how I feel about it. Because with a lot of these, if I'm trying to make a piece, I haven't been making collage art as much lately. I'm trying to make a piece out of papers. One piece of a specific paper is actually totally fine. It's when I'm trying to, like I said, create those backgrounds that I work smaller and use multiples. So I'm still apparently getting back in the habit. This is what happens when you've stayed away too long from collaging. I think I want this to overlap bits of that turquoise, because I think that's interesting and it's going to create an interesting color for me. So let's lay down some gloss medium. Ugh. It's one of those things, I do so many different types of art making and creativity, and I tend to constantly flip back and forth from one to another, and that really keeps me excited and interested and creatively motivated. It's great, but one of the drawbacks is I sometimes get a little rusty and have to remember how I like to do certain things, and that is definitely the case here. I sort of I can't believe I haven't been collaging more lately, because I love making the painted papers. I love playing with the painted papers. I think it's just because I've been doing an awful lot of junk journaling, and then I am re-exploring working with yarn. I used to knit constantly, and then I started having a lot of pain, and I didn't think I was ever going to be able to do it again. And so sometimes I would weave on a little frame loom, but when I got the yarn out the other day, because I want to start putting more textile and other components in my journals. So I got all the yarn out, I started weaving a little bit, and I thought, well, let me just see how it feels to knit. I mean, it's been years, and so far I'm doing that without pain, which is really exciting. And so I've been playing with that. So you just have, you know, we all have limited time, and then I end up forgetting something that I love and not having done it for a long time, and it's just so invigorating to get back to it. I'm going to move all of this plain tissue out of my way. I like that a lot, and I think, yeah, I might come back to it and add more pieces, but if I do, I think they may be more finishing pieces. And so now I'm trying to decide, do I want to add the gold in, or these you know, lacy. I think that might make more sense as a top layer piece. Do I want this gold? I like this gold. And I do like the black flecks in it, but I honestly think this might make more sense for what I'm trying to do here. So let's do exactly that. And you know, even as I'm saying, like, I want to try and collage a piece here and not just create a background, there's still every possibility that at some point I'll work in this journal, open this page back up, and decide that I really want to do something else to it. That's just the way, it goes. And that's one of the things I think is so fun about working in journals all the time and not having them be precious is that they create their own inspiration for you, so that you can go back to things that maybe you haven't touched in years and have an aha moment and just be like, oh, I know what this needs. I want to put this thing I just did here. So I'm thinking I'm going to do another big piece overlap. And since this is such, sheer tissue paper, I don't have to worry about like white edges or anything, so that's been nice. And once you get used to it, it's not too hard to remember how to tear to limit your white edges, but it's nice when I don't have to think about it at all, huh? Okay, so I'm going to come at you from the top. I gotta rip this bit away because that part of the page is ripped away, and I kind of want to keep that. Yes, okay. Let's make sure we've got medium down. This is going to take a day to dry again, and that is okay with me. Just means I'll work on other stuff. That's all it ever means for me. Something's drying, I just work on something else. Come back to it later. It's kind of like when you've organized your space really well and put stuff away so well that you sort of forget where it is or what you've got, and then one day when you're organizing again, you find it and it's brand new all over again. That's how I feel a lot of the time about these tissue or these journal pages. Is I just 1 minute I'm working in them and I've got ideas and I put it away, and then 3 months later I open it up and go, ooh, I have an idea. That is nice. Yeah, I like that. And now I still got a little bit of white space too, where those images from the original page are poking through. I think that's really nice. I kind of just want to continue this paper as a through line. Like so. Everything's so saturated with water and medium at this point that I don't really have to keep laying medium under. Just gotta make sure it's on top so that because the nice thing too about working with these really thin tissue papers is that to a great degree the medium will soak right through them. There we go. I will say, I like this much better in person than the way it looks on camera. And I think that's partly because it's so shiny and partly because my desk is such a mess. But I really do like where this is headed. And now I feel like move the gold pieces out of the way and I can start to think about how I might finish this off. So I'm going to get my little pieces that I pulled. I know this is that exact same turquoise, and then got some sort of like brown orangey color here. So one option is I could use this as it is, exactly, and start introducing some more sort of hard shapes in. That's kind of interesting, isn't that? Yeah, and that mimics the coloring we've got down here even. I just have to figure out where I want to put it. I kind of love these leaves that are peeking through. I don't want to cover those as much as this makes sense. So yeah, I think we'll consider that. I've also got a circle. I like the square better. Feels a bit more balanced to me. Okay. I will say, this is the kind of thing where the fact that I feel like I've kind of lost a little bit of my collage mojo, it would not bother me in the slightest, but since I'm doing it on video now, there's a part of me that, you know, feels like it should be amazing and wonderful and perfect, because it's out in the world. And I do think one of the nicest things about excuse me, art journaling is the ability to have this place where you can create without judgment and without having to show other people everything you've done, and doing it on video like this negates that a bit, but it's still really interesting and fun to share. Do I like this here to sort of echo back to that one at the top? Kinda. Oh, it's time to play. I may actually come back over the top with more of the turquoise, because a lot of it got covered in that initial layer, and I want to pull it back through a little bit. So I do like this here. It's got a lot of that gold, and it mimics a lot of the lines and textures and sort of rust. Yeah, I don't want that on there. I want it on there, but I don't. Okay, so you're going down here. And again, there's stuff that's pulling through from the bottom that I don't want to lose. It's especially those leaf images that I really, really like in this backing paper. So I am trying to make sure that they don't get, I mean, as much translucency as we're getting in these papers, and we're getting a lot, they do obscure a certain amount of what's underneath them, no matter what you do. So yeah, I like the way that blended in there. That's nice. I've got these two itty bitty bits that I've ripped. I might include those at some point. And then yeah, I want to come back through here. There we go. Like that, I think. I want it to intersect with where the turquoise piece on the bottom layer is. I like that. I think that makes it more interesting that they're sort of connected, and in fact that may be the way I use the turquoise here on the end across the piece as sort of connective tissue for the three we laid down initially. I also like the idea of putting something on top of that square, just a smidge. So there, I'm gonna make this just a teeny little bridge between pieces. There we go. Boop. All right. I like bridging. The only thing I don't love about it is that I'm not sure I feel like it's quite as composed as I would like here or in other places where the bottom layer of the turquoise is heavily obscured. So I'm just gonna, yeah, actually that works really well. So much water. Okay, very gentle with my paint shaper here. And yes, yes, yes. Yes. Oh, it is such a gray and rainy day outside. I love it. I have been so tired of summer. I live in central Arkansas. We moved back this way a little over a year ago. And I've never been a lover of the heat and especially of the humidity. And we're in a very hot and humid area. And so that means that the majority of even this October, our highs were in the 80s, our humidity was off the chart, and being outside was extremely uncomfortable. And I am just really, really happy to have the rain and the colder temperatures. I'm ready to get cozy. Okay, I'm being fiddly, but when I know what I want, okay, bring this right up to that edge there, and then you up to the edge there. Okay. So we've got that there. It's so shiny and wet. It's hard for me to even see the composition. I'm actually looking over at my computer screen right now because it helps me better see the composition of the piece. And now I am just kind of playing. I like the language of this turquoise. Who knew? I mean, this didn't even make it in the first round of collaging with these papers. And it is now dominating the conversation in this second round. And I am not upset about it. Honestly, I think it's really fun and interesting. And I just, for some reason, I feel the need to have these lines that the turquoise is creating extend out to the edges of the page and sort of pull together the piece. Yeah. There we are. Come on, stay down. Must not have, okay, yeah, I don't have enough medium there. Let me put more down. There we go, because it's all on the paint shaper anyway. See if I can get this right back where I wanted it. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Spray. color. And spray and lay down our color. And I don't like that hard edge up in that big square piece as much now. The question is, how do I want to resolve it? Do I want to continue to tie the turquoises together, or add more of this back in? I want to make sure that it has a bit of that teal. How's that? That I like better. Spray. One of the things I always find interesting when I watch people work on YouTube is watching their decision processes, because there are a lot of times where I don't agree. I'm like, no, don't put it there, put it over here. And so you may be feeling that right now, and I actually think that's really awesome when people, you know, have their own thoughts and ideas of how they would work a piece up. Add these little guys in. And then I think it's time to walk away. So I'm just going to put these last. Where did I even put that other? Oh, there it is. Okay. This is definitely at a stage where until it's dry, I won't really be able to know if I think it's finished. And even then, I may not. Sometimes I'll look at something and think it's not finished, but I don't know where I want to take it next. Like I was talking about my rabbit and stuff. And so that's also okay. And that's one of the things I love about the art journaling is getting something as far as I can take it on that day, knowing that at some point later I'll go back to it and potentially do more. And I do really like where this is. I just don't know if it's where I will leave it. I'm going to set it aside to dry, probably for 24 hours. And then I'll pull it back. I'm so congested today. And then I'll pull it back out and we can take a look and see if there's more we want to do. And this time I'll make sure that I don't put the papers I'm using away. So I'm just going to set those aside, set this aside. And I mean, just look at that. It's so yummy. It'll also be nice to be able to take it off the deli paper and that background and kind of separate it out. I need to put something over my messy desk just so that it doesn't detract so much from the work. Sometimes I'll put like butcher paper down or something, and then I'll actually use that as collage fodder later. Okay, so we're going to put this away, and just in case you're curious, I'll pull out those other pieces I mentioned that I'm currently working on. So this is my colorful spider. If you really hate spiders, I'm sorry, but hopefully this one isn't too scary. It's kind of fun and cute, I hope. And then this is the hair that I started. And I got those initial watercolor layers down, and I really like them, and I just can't make up my mind yet where I'm going from here. And that is the beauty of daily art practice. Here's my papers. I'm going to put them next to the drying piece. I hope you found that interesting. I'd love to know your thoughts and ideas about what you would do with the piece that we're working on. So feel free to leave those in the comments. If you found this interesting, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and to get notifications of the daily journals, hit that bell and you'll get all of the updates. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you tomorrow.